Hello, everyone. Welcome back once again. I am Nicodemus Kane. Today is January the 27th of 2023. Um, Today we're going to read Ecclesiastes 4. Remember, I said that I can't leave well enough alone. If I start something, I need to finish it. So I figured Friday is a good day to throw them in there. Just finish it out. Remember, there's only what was it, 12 chapters? 12 chapters, and they're all like less than a page. And so we can do it. But this started out as something I overheard my father-in-law say, that, he who increases knowledge increases sorrows. And he said that was from Ecclesiastes 1. And that's pretty much how we started this. This is, they think, Solomon saying this, which I kind of tend to agree. This seems to be pointing towards him saying it. There's a couple places in here where you're maybe not so sure, but I would think that it's Solomon saying it. I don't really have much to say this morning. I usually will sit here and rant and rave for 30 minutes about something. I really don't have anything today. It's a Friday. I am so beat down because of this week. Because of the work that we've been doing. Because of the weather. It's been nasty all day, snowing, and nasty all week, I should say. It's been snowing, and it's been cloudy, and even though I've been enjoying the snow, it's just been dreary, and I haven't been able to walk, take my walks around the yard. The barometric pressure is destroying my joints. I always used to make fun of people when they used to say, "Oh, there's a storm coming because my knee is starting to act up." Never understood what that meant until I got older, and I was like, "Oh man, I can predict the weather." my knees are hurting really bad. I think we got a storm coming in. So that's going on too. I mean, not only that, but not to mention, it's like I haven't been able to walk, so I feel like I'm kind of heavy and bloated right now. So I'm not feeling 100%. Let's put it that way. So I don't have much to say. I really don't. It's just been a long week, and I'm tired, and we get to bring the grandbaby over to the house this weekend, which is going to be nice. I think she's going to spend the night, which is going to be amazing. It's always awesome to be able to have the grandbaby over here, to be able to play around and do stuff with. It's going to be cool. So I'm ready for that. I'm definitely ready to take the misery of the week and wash it away with our grandbaby. It's going to be awesome. Other than that, though, yeah, I don't have much. I always say it is Friday. Just be wary. It seems like those people in charge, I'd say they, but some people even ask the question, who are they? Well, those evil powers that should not be in charge. They tend to like to do things right before the weekend, so that you have the entire weekend to dwell upon whatever it is that they just pulled, whatever just happened. So just keep an eye out. I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I know I put down a lot of dates over the past month where I've said, look out for this, 113, 123, or what was some of the other ones? 119, and not much happened. Little things happened. Little things behind the scenes happen, and it doesn't have to be big. Just little things here and there. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't really think much will happen. I do always like to say, though, that February the 2nd is the 33rd day of the year. Nobody ever thinks about that. Groundhog's Day. Nobody ever thinks about that. That's the 33rd day of the year. Does it mean anything? I don't know. I don't want to say it does or doesn't, but it is a 2-2. It is the 33rd day of the year. They mask it underneath going and asking a rodent how the weather's going to be. Think about it for a second. There's something going on there. That's all I'm saying. It's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But I say any day of this year, you have to be careful, because it is the 2023. It's a 223. That's a 322. That's their number. It's the Skull and Bones number. They love their numerology. Some people still don't seem to understand that. I've seen several people on Twitter before that have said, "Oh, numbers mean nothing. I don't know what you guys think that 33 is a big deal." It's like, well, it's kind of a big deal. You see it all over the place, over and over and over again. Oh, no, it's not. It's just a coincidence. Well, that's just a theory. A coincidence theory. That's just the truth. That's all it is. More than anything, I just tell you to be careful. Just like I said, especially on the weekends. They like to pull these things on the weekends. Whatever it may be. Because they like you to dwell on it. And it usually, when you look back at the things that have happened over the past 10, 20 years, it usually happens right before lunch or at lunch, right around noon. And I want to say Eastern time for America. So that you have the rest of the day to dwell on it. So that you can either get fired up about something that happened that was bad, or that you could expend your energy thinking about it if it was something sad. The best examples I can think of is what was it, the church that burned down happened right before lunch. Of course, that happened on a Wednesday, but still, that's all people could talk about for the rest of that day. That's all people gave energy to for the rest of that day. They even, whenever we were in the office, I was still working in the office, and the television screens that they usually have to show how the servers are running, they actually had them running nonstop on the news channel so that we could, so that people could watch the church and updates. And I just thought, wow, I mean, if you ever want everybody to consider a topic, for 4 or 5 hours. The same thing happened with, it was 2020, and it wasn't George Floyd, it was one of them after that, some kid got shot and killed. And it happened before lunch on a Friday, and you could just hear the anger just building. Everybody just kept talking about it. We're going to go out and we're going to demolish this. We're going to go out and destroy that. And sure enough, right at 5 o'clock, the riot started. And all I could think of is, they started it right at noon. You had 5 hours until you got off of work to where it built up. It built up with rage and anger. And right at 5 o'clock, it started. By 6 o'clock, there were cities that were burning. I think that was, what was the one See, it's not even something I remember anymore now. The one where Kyle Rittenhouse got shot. I don't even remember it now. But I think that's the one that it was. It's just you could see the timeline of events, and you heard about it, and the only thing I could think of is, oh man, they're gonna burn that place to the ground. And then next thing you know, and then it happened all weekend, the whole weekend, and then Monday it just magically stopped. Just everybody stopped. Who cares? Just enough to get your weekend fill of it, and then I gotta go back to work. That's how they do it. That's how it is. Just be wary. That's all I say. Be wary, be prepared. You never know what's coming. Especially with these people. You never know what's coming. Anyways, Ecclesiastes 4. Let's go ahead and read this. So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Wherefore I praise the dead, which are already dead, more than the living, which are yet alive. Yea, better is he than both they, which hath not yet been, who hath not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. And there are several pilcrows in this, so they're like really short verses. So let's go back up to the top. So I returned and considered. Let's go back for a second. Let's go to let's just go back to 3 and let's just kind of see where we're talking about here. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 was to everything there's a season. So this was talking about, there's a time for everything. And it says, and moreover I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, that the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him? All right, that kind of gives you a concept going into chapter 4. What's happening? So starting at the top of chapter 4. So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. And behold, the tears of such as were oppressed, and they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. I considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun. Behold the tears of such that were oppressed. They had no comforter. So, I've talked about this a lot. Those powers that should not be. Those rulers and kings that are not sent by God. Now, Paul and Romans would get you to believe that every ruler was given to you by God, and that they would do just and right things according to God's ways. Well, all you need to do is look around and realize that the people that are in charge are not doing things by God's ways. They're not put there by His hand. How are most of these people there? Most of these people get into power because the people choose them. God told the Israelites whenever they came out of Egypt, He said, you don't get to choose a king, because they wanted to. They had a guy already set up, ready to go. They said, we choose this guy. God said, no, you don't get to choose. I will send you somebody so that he can justly and righteously rule over you. He said, you don't need it, but even if you want it, I will send somebody for you. Because if you choose somebody yourself, it's going to be a popularity contest. Because remember, that's all democracy is. All democracy is a popularity contest. It's two wolves and a lamb voting on what they're going to have for dinner. It's exactly what it is. That's why America is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. It's something else. They've gone out of their way to convince you that it's a democracy, but it's not. A true democracy, every democracy fails because it is mob mentality. It's mob rule. That's absolutely what it is. Even God knew this. Even God knew that if you are able to choose your own rulers, your own kings, eventually you will choose someone that is after their own interests. They're not after your interests. They're after the mob's interest. Let's put it that way. And they will hear the soft words, the same old stuff we've heard over and over again. They will hear the lies. They will hear the soft words. They will hear all those things that leads regular people into destruction. And every democracy winds up turning into a tyranny. That's exactly what happens. It's because it's 51 people. It's 51% of the people telling the other 49% of the people what to do, and the other 49% of the people get mad, and then a war starts. And once that war starts, what's the only way to fix it? Tyranny. That's exactly how this works. That's why they keep trying to divide us on everything. They keep trying to put it into our head. This is a democracy. You can choose how you want to live. It's a democracy. And they constantly divide you. The more they divide you, the more they realize that sooner or later, the 49% is going to rise up against the 51%. And then the only way that you can solve that is by bringing war, bringing rules, bringing power down upon them. And then you have a tyranny. Because that's the only way that you can make that work. We had a constitutional republic, which says that we have a democratic system. But in the end, we have a constitution that upholds what the powers that are there get to do. They don't just get to run rampant all over everything. There's not only a democratic system, but there are also stops along the way where if someone gets out of control, if someone gets too much power, if someone doesn't do what the Constitution wants that person to do, that person can be taken out. And I'm not talking about taken out like an assassin's head or anything, but they can be taken out of power. Now, whether we've actually been under that rule, I don't know. Whoever wrote that, I really don't know. I don't know if that was, I don't know if that was the so-called founders, or if that was something that was here before the founders came. I don't know. That's hard to understand. Which way is true? There's a lot of people that say, well, all you have to do is just look at the history books. And, well, the history books can be forged. Just because somebody tells you that the Constitution of the United States of America was written in 1776 doesn't mean it's true. That could have very easily have been written in 1812 for all you know. That they could have made it seem like you're under this kind of rule. You just don't know. But what the country was supposedly founded under works extremely well. And I don't know how it got there. I don't know why it got there. Somebody put it there. But for the past 100 years, 150 years, it seems like there are powers, there are people out there in the world that are doing their damnedest to take that away. especially within the past 60 to 80 years. They're doing their damnedest to take it out of the way. I don't know where it came from. I don't know the history of it. I know what they tell us, and I know what's written. I know that it has worked for a pretty decent amount of time, but now they are trying to shift it into a democracy. They're trying to shift it into something that it's not. And once it gets to that point, once it gets to a full-blown democracy, it's the 51% of the people telling the other 49% of the people what to do. It's getting bizarre out there. It's getting bizarre and crazy, but there is coming an oppression. There will be an oppression of the powers that should not be upon us. That you're already starting to see it. We can talk about the Davos and the WEF and all of these rules that they're telling us that are coming. You can see them slowly but surely manipulating everything to work in that power. With the gas prices and the egg prices and all this other kind of stuff, and they're talking about, the weather manipulation, and now they're talking about the cybersecurity of the power grid. They've already proven that they can lock down the world. They wanted to see who would fight back, who would resist if they put out some kind of a pandemic. They found out not many people resisted. And because of that, they know all they have to do is just say that it's happening again, and people will just fall for it again. Now they're talking about climate lockdowns. Are you going to close down your business because of the climate? What was the place? There is a city, I think it's a county in England, a whole county, where they are going to lock down again as a test. Not only that, but they are going to have what's the word I'm looking for? Passes, passports, certain zones that you can and can't go out of. They're trying to see how much control they can put onto one place. They already know that they can lock you down and they can keep you from simply going out to work. But now there's a place they're testing to see just how much they can lock people down, to where you can only travel so many miles per week. You can only go to so many places per week. That you can only go into so many buildings. I wish I could remember what that was. I should have written that down. But that's what's happening. They said that it's going to happen this year. They're going to test it this year. This whole county is going to do it. And there's been some pushback on it too. There's been some pushback. The people are, they're not enjoying trying to do this, but their government is just going to keep on going. Their government's going to keep on going because nobody wants to fight back against government. But they're going to keep on pushing it, and they're going to test it. And no matter what the results are, they're going to say, oh, well, that's a good thing. It actually worked. And then the next thing you know, they're going to put it somewhere else. And it's going to go somewhere else. It's going to put it somewhere else. And then you're going to see an entire country, accept that. I mean, hell, we've already seen that. China and their social credit system. They've got it. Australia's a step away from that. The Prime Minister of Australia came out and, he's talking about making sure that he goes out and he finds everyone that's unvaccinated to make sure that they get vaccinated. That's a threat. I'm going to come door to door. He didn't actually say that. That's what that means. So we're going to come door to door. Are you going to stand up for yourself or not? Let's get back to this, though. I get too far down into this, and I can just keep going and going and going. So I returned and considered all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold the tears of such as were oppressed. And they had no comforter. And on the side of their oppressors there was power, but they had no comforter. Wherefore I praise the dead, which are already dead, more than the living, which are yet alive. Which even myself, I have done. We talked about 2 days ago, my best friend, he's been dead for 20 years now. He's missed everything. I said, man, you've been lucky that you've been able to just miss all of this. I was thinking about my grandfather the other day, too. He died in 2004, 2005. I don't remember exactly when. He and I never talked about, like, 9/11, you know? I wish we could have, because I would have loved to have heard his opinion. But he was very sick after 2001. He always had some kind of a problem. He was always in the hospital. But he's missed everything. A lot of people that I wouldn't mind having their opinion now are just gone. People that I think would be able to see through the lie. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know. But they are not going to have to live through what's coming. You know, they already are in a place that's good for them. I've thought about that over the past couple of years. You know, they missed everything. Now, I wasn't awakened to this I wasn't awakened to the lies until like 5 or 6 years ago. Sure. And I probably wouldn't have talked about this stuff between, the past 20 years. But I've thought about that, though. Wherefore I praise the dead, which are already dead, more than the living, which are yet alive. Yea, better is he than both they which hath not yet been, who hath not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. It's better for those that aren't even born yet, that haven't seen what's going on. The misery and the pain and the destruction that's coming. I'll tell you what, half the things that are happening in this world right now weren't even a thing 5 years ago. They weren't. They definitely weren't a thing 10 years ago. It wasn't even conceivable 20 years ago. 20 years. 2002. It was not even remotely conceivable where we would be right now. 20 years ago. In verse 4, again I considered all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. This is also vanity and vexation of spirits. The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. Better is an handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirits. Now that's a little confusing. Let's read that one again. Verse 4, again I considered all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. This is also vanity and vexation of spirits. I considered all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. The fool foldeth his hands together, and eateth his own flesh. Now that's a big one. The fool. Let's look this one up. There's a couple things in Proverbs. Let me see if this will help understand that. The fool foldeth his hands and eateth his own flesh. So Proverbs 6:10 is where this is pointing us out to. And that is, let's go to verse 9. How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou rise out of thy sleep? This is verse 10. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. There's another one for 24:33. See if that gives us just a little bit more insight. $24.33. Yet a little sleep, yet a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. Well, that didn't help. A little folding of the hands to sleep. Really? That does not help me. The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. That's one worth pondering. But in context, verse 6, better is an handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirits. So, taken as verse 4, I considered all travail in every work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. So, every work that you do, every travail that you do, that is right work, every good work, is envied of your neighbor. The fool that foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. Let's look to see if those even mean something different than they are. We have the concordance here for a reason. Verse 5. I'm sure somebody probably knows exactly what this means, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. For all I know, this is something that could be like what's the word? Like a phrase or something that they used to have back in the day that we don't understand now because it doesn't exist anymore. Person, body, the pudenda. The heck is pudenda? Pudenda of a man. What the heck kind of word is that? Pudenda. A person's external genitals, especially a woman. Pudendum. Pudenda. Wow. Okay. You learn something new every day. Let's go back to that. Nakedness, self, skin. It is flesh. The fool foldeth his hands together. To fold one's hands in idleness. And that's what I was kind of thinking, is if you're folding your hands together to sleep, that means you're being idle. That means you're not doing anything. And we're talking about somebody envying his neighbor because his neighbor is doing good works and he is envying him. The fool folds his hands together that does nothing and eateth his own flesh. He doesn't eat the products of what he does. He's only eating away at himself because he has nothing. The fool that envies after his own, if you're not working hard for the things that you need of this world, then you are doing nothing worthwhile for yourself. The idle man has nothing to eat but his own flesh. Something similar to that. Does that make any sense? Huh. And then better is a handful with quietness than both the hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. It is better to have a handful of humbleness in which you've done the things that you have to do to exist in this world, than it is to come in with both hands full of the vexation that comes from envying somebody else, from being idle. Does that make sense? That kind of, I'm sure I'm wrong. I've always said this, I say this all the time. I'm sure I'm wrong. There's probably something far deeper going on there than I could ever possibly know. But that, just on the surface level, just trying to, dig into it, it's something to consider. Yeah, something to consider. Something to try to figure out. Verse 7. Then I returned, and I saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone, and there is not a second. Yea, he hath neither child nor brother. Yet is there no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches. Neither saith he, For whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This is also vanity. Yea, it is a sore travail. Okay. So back up to 7. Like I said, there's a lot of pilgrims in here. There's a lot of stops. So back up to 7. Then I returned and saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone, and there is not a second. Yea, he hath neither child nor brother. It's probably because he's done nothing for himself but to be envious of other people. Yet is there no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches. Neither saith he, For whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This is also vanity. Yea, it is a sore travail. Yet there is no end of all his labor. Neither is his eye satisfied with riches. This is somebody that is working as hard as possible, can never be satisfied with the riches. Neither said, Whom do I labor and bereave my soul for good? Somebody who has never taken a child, hath neither a child nor a brother, who is doing everything only for himself, which is vanity, can never be satisfied by riches. There is no end to his labor, works his ass off all the time, is never satisfied by the riches, and never even asks, why do I do it? Never even asks himself. He just does it so that he can constantly pull these things together. Or, pull the riches, something that you see a lot today, actually, is this movement of men that are going out and building themselves fortunes in this world. They are choosing not to go after women. They're choosing not to go after anybody, really. They're choosing just to build up their own wealth, their own fortune. Very little friends. Just as long as they have their houses and their cars, they're happy. They don't need to worry about anything else. I was there. I remember being there. Whenever I was in my early 20s, man, it was just like work, 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 go out and spend your money, come home, and, be done with it, because you don't want to have anything to do with the world. I remember being there. That was before I met my ex-girlfriend. She snapped me out of that, showed me something better, and I do think that was what put me on the path to where I am now. Because if it wasn't for that, I probably would have just stayed there, just working and building up the things of this world for myself and not worrying about anything else. That's what it sounds like. Now, again, I could be wrong. That passage could mean something completely different. But at the same time, this is also vanity. Yea, it is a sore travail. You're just working and building up the things of this world for nothing other than yourself. You're not even trying to set anything up in this world other than your own wealth. Which is kind of what the entirety of, well, I don't want to say the entirety, but the majority of Ecclesiastes has been kind of saying, is that why would you spend all this time building yourself up, building your wealth up, building all of these things up when they don't matter in this world? That all of these things get handed down to somebody else, and that somebody else could either burn them or, destroy those things, and it doesn't matter. Things of this world mean nothing. As the things in the next world is the things that you have to worry about. That's what the majority of it that I've gotten the message out of is just, why does it matter? Everything in this world is vanity. It's only there to build up our lives here. God doesn't care. The only thing God cares about is us taking care of each other and loving each other. He will give us a good place to live, and He will give us food to eat, and He will give us, shelter and keep us from harm and do all these other things. But when we do nothing for anyone else but ourselves, God doesn't want that. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the big house. He doesn't care about how many toys you have. He doesn't care about your expensive car. You decided to do that for yourself. That's vanity. That's sore travail. Verse 9. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Again, if 2 lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? And if one prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him. And a threefold sorry about that. And if one prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. My mouth is not working. So back up to 9. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. Now remember, this is again talking about somebody that just would rather be alone and do things alone. No child, no brother, nothing around him. He's doing it all by himself, for himself. So 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. Which is exactly what that means. If you decide to do it for yourself, if you fall, there will be nobody there to help pick you up. I can testify to that. I was at my lowest point. I didn't have anybody there, because I decided to be by myself for myself. And I fell. It was not until after I started finding people that would lift me up out of my funk, because I was in some dark places. And just strangers, random strangers found me, you know, and they decided to take me in and lift me up. I wouldn't call them, good Christian folk. they were just people, and it was enough that I was able to get back on my feet. It was enough that they helped me, get back to life. Again, where are we at here? For he hath not another to help him up. 11, verse 11. Again, if two lie together, then they have heat. But how can one be warm alone? No, take it on face value. That's exactly what that means. And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Okay, if one stand against him, two shall withstand him. So if somebody comes against you, if you had somebody with you, they would not be able to stand against you. And a threefold cord is not quickly broken. I have no idea what that means. Again, that may be a threefold cord. It is just a threefold cord. Originally to intensify, but apparently only used as a denominative. Yeah, that's a good word. To be triplicate, or to do a third time. To divide into three. And a threefold cord is quickly broken. Is not quickly broken. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that's weird. Not quickly broken. I have a feeling, again, for something like that, it is some kind of a saying that they had when this would have been written. Something that they could understand that we can't understand right now. And I bet you if I dug into it, I could probably find it. But we're going to keep going. Verse 13. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. For out of prison he cometh to reign. Whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. I considered all the living which walk under the sun, with the second child that shall stand up in his stead. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirits. So going back up to 13. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king. Now you hear those things, and I always think of somebody I was listening to a long time ago, about 3 years ago, who said that he had been studying the verse about the broad path and a narrow way. And he was thinking about it in terms of coming to God as a child. And that he woke up the next day and his kid had come to him and said, Daddy, I had a dream that there was a big mountain and there was a crack through the mountain, and that I had to navigate my way through this crack in the mountain. There was a light on the other side that I had to get to it. And this guy had said he figured out that's what it means. Or, well, but in a roundabout way, that's what it would entail, is that part of the message was that, not only would the only way that you could stay on that narrow path, that very narrow path to God, instead of following the broad way, the only way to be able to go through that path would be as a child. Would, in order to be able to just fit through the crack in the wall. I mean, a normal-sized man would have a hard time doing it. But as a child, you would very easily be able to fit through. Now, that is not 100% absolutely what those two verses meant. You don't have to become a literal child. You have to come as a child that is willing to learn, that is willing to understand, not one that is so ingrained in the system that they don't want to come out of it. Not one that has had years upon years upon years of understanding what this world is and what they want of this world. It is similar to when I say you have to start with a blank slate. Is that you have to be willing to give up everything, because as a child you have nothing in this world. You really don't. You have your mother and you have your father, and that's it. You have the things that they buy you, but they don't mean anything. You could lose those and still be okay with your life. As you're older, you have taken on all of these things onto your life. Not only the things that you've learned, but, relationships, your own children, money, debt. You've taken on all these things, and you are so ingrained in the system. It's like the Matrix. It's like, we only wake up certain people, before a certain age, because once you're too old, you get so ingrained in the system that you don't want to come out of it. It's kind of like that. But I will always remember him saying, his kid came up to him and told him he had a dream, and that's how he remembered it. That's how he thinks of it, is that, you have to come as a child. The only way that you can fit through the narrow path is as a child. And I think about that. Better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king who will no more be admonished. Again, that's probably not what that verse means. I'm just telling you from my experience, from what I've heard, from what I've understood. It doesn't have to be that way. Don't listen to me, for crying out loud. I say it over and over again. Don't listen to old Nicodemus. He don't know any better. He's trying to figure it out just like everybody else. It's still one of those very interesting things. I had to explain this to somebody the other day too, I picked the name. That Nicodemus Kane is not my name, not my real name. I picked that name back in high school. Because Nicodemus was the cool rat on Secret of Nim. And I couldn't find a good last name for him. I needed a pseudonym. So Kane just popped up. I don't know why. They sound good back to back. It just is what it is. But somebody said, "Are you really a Kane?" Somebody else has said this too. I've actually had a couple people within the past year ask me about this. And they said, "Are you really a Kane?" And I said, "No, it's just something I was called to take. So when God's ready to make me change my name, I said, but it's interesting though that I choose the name Nicodemus, because Nicodemus was the one that came to Christ and asked him, how does this work? Can you explain this to me? It's the namesake that the inquisitive, what does this really mean? I'm just trying to find it out for myself. Don't listen to me. When I find out the truth, I'll tell you. But I don't even know what the truth is. I really don't know what it is. It's just one of those side things, though. Don't follow old crazy Nicodemus. He doesn't know what he's doing. Yes, I know that Nicodemus is spelled differently. I did that on purpose. I did it on purpose because I wanted it to be different. It is what it is. You want the truth? Whenever I first came up with it, I spelled it wrong. And then when I realized I spelled it wrong, I was like, well, now I legitimately want it to be wrong. Just wait. It's no history lesson for you. How's that? It's been, what am I, 40, coming up on 46? So that would have been 27 years ago? What was I, like a sophomore in high school? 27, 28 years ago? Man, that's a long time. God, I'm old. Better is a poor and wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. Verse 14, for out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also that he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor. So even one that can come out of prison can be taken all the way to the top to be the king. But at the same time, even one that is born into a kingdom can lose everything. You got that? I considered all the living which walk under the sun, with the second child that will stand up in his stead. I considered all the living which walk under the sun, with the second child that shall stand up in his stead. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and vexation of spirit. There is no end of all the people, even of all that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. Give me a second. I'm trying. There's something there. My brain is trying to put it together. Somebody will probably be able to put it together very easily. There's no end of all the people, even of all them that have been before them. They also that come after shall not rejoice in him. So, what I'm getting because we're talking about old and foolish kings, which will no more be admonished, for even he can come out of a prison. He that comes out of a prison can be brought up to reign, whereas also a great king that has all of these things can be born into a kingdom and have nothing. I considered all the living which walk under the sun, with the second child that shall stand up in his stead. There is no end of all the people, even of all them that have been before, and even all that will come after. They shall not rejoice in him. It won't matter. It won't care. Because everything is fleeting. Everything falls away. That's been the number one thing. It's been the number one message that this has been trying to get, or trying to put upon us, is that everything we do in this world is fleeting. It's not going to matter. The things that we build, the things that we do, it doesn't matter. Helping others, doing good, bringing good things, good tidings to other people, the stuff that God wants, that's what matters. Everything else that you do to build up your life, to build up your fortune, to build up wealth, to build up power, those things don't matter. Now, I'm not saying go out and sell every damn thing you have and give all your money away to charity and go live like a hermit in the hills. Even though Christ told us to do that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, for those that are so caught up in this world that this is all they have, that they want nothing more than to follow the trappings of this world, to do all the work, to do all the labor, to store up all the wealth, to follow after all the power, follow after all the fame. Those things mean nothing in the end. Because even a king, an old and foolish king who has lost all of his followers, even the people that come after him, it won't matter. It won't matter in the end. That makes sense. That tracks, doesn't it? I think it tracks. At least enough of an understanding. There's enough of an understanding that I think that tracks. I think that's what's coming out of it. It may not be perfect, and again, don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Go listen to several commentaries if you want to. That's what I do. I try to listen to both sides as much as possible. I try to listen to both sides. To any commentary, somebody says one thing, well, there's going to be somebody out there that has a counter argument to it. Go try to listen to as many people as possible. In order to make your own opinion. But just on the surface level that I have, if Father's going to wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning to come in here and talk about this stuff, he's going to have to, not only is he telling me that I need to preach a word, but he's letting me have some kind of commentary on it. From my own basis, that's what I think. That's what this means. So, that all being said, I'm actually stopping early. Wow. So most of the times I look up and it's like 7:30. Now it's just 7 o'clock. This is short. This was really short. That's probably because I didn't spend 30 minutes talking about something else, which I usually do. Yeah, I'm just worn down, man. It's been a long week. It's been a long week. Even this is vanity and vexation of spirit. That's what it feels like. This is what I feel like right now. You contemplate, what is it good for here? What are we really doing? Well, am I busting my hump trying to make the money to be able to pay for the house? I have to remind myself sometime that we do it. We do it because not only do we have a place to live, we have a place where the kids can come and stay should they get into a problem. We live outside of the big cities because did I ever tell anybody that so we moved in September, October of 2021. We went down to Florida in, what was it, June? We went down to Florida in June to empty out my mom's house. We got back by July 4th, I think. I think that's right. It's either before or after. Anyways. July 4th, I didn't care. I didn't really want to go do anything. But we wound up taking the chairs out front of the house just as a, because that was going to be our last year living there, because the people across the street we were pretty good friends with. And this is the old house I'm talking about. And so we set up our chairs and we were watching them shoot off fireworks. And there were some people that used to live catty corner to us too, that they're the type that would go out and spend like $500 on fire. They had a lot of fireworks. So we went out there and we were just kind of sitting and watching, and I heard bullets fly over our head. Pew, 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 pew. They weren't fireworks. They were, it was the whine of a bullet. I have heard the whine of a bullet over my head before. I know what it sounds like. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. Somebody just shot bullets over our heads. So we work to pay for the house that got us out of the city, that got us out of that neighborhood, because that neighborhood was not good. We have a place for the kids to come, for, my stepdaughter and her boyfriend and the grandkids, if they need a place to come, because Lord knows there's always something going on where they need to have a place to come to. We have a place for the family to come to. It's not big, it's not small. It's just enough for us. It has its problems. But this is where we were told that we had to go. That we did a lot of praying on this. We did a lot of praying. We did a lot of soul searching and trying to find out if this was the right thing for us to do. This is what God told us to do. He told us to come here and live in this house. This house has already paid for itself. Not in a physical way, but in a, we should have done this, where we did the right thing kind of way. And the things that we do, the work that we have to put into it, I have to have that understanding, and I absolutely think it's the right thing. Because, again, God hasn't pointed me anywhere else yet. He's told us to sit in the house and wait. Pretty much. I don't think that it's completely in vain just yet. Now, I could look around and look at all the stuff we own, and I could say, yeah, that's vanity. This stuff's not doing me any good, and I've called myself a hypocrite several times on it. And I absolutely understand how that works. But wherever God is leading you, wherever you pray to Him and He says, you need to go here and do this, you need to go here and follow that, listen to what He says. Even if it goes completely against anything that you know. When it's time for him to come to you and say, all right, now it's time to sell all your stuff. Now it's time to head to the hills and be a hermit. When he says, not when I say, because I'm not going to tell you that. When he tells you it's time, you need to be sure to do it. Follow what the Father tells us to do. Always keep that in mind. When he tells you it's time to stand up and fight, you stand up and fight. When he tells you it's time to sit down and shut up and let it happen, you sit down, shut up, and let it happen. Now, I don't know what he's telling everybody else. He's telling me some kind of truths. He's telling me that I need to tell the people that they need to stand up and fight for what they believe in. There are other people out there that I've heard that I'm not even going to say if they are, quote unquote, more in touch with God than I am. But he's been telling them to sit down and shut up. I don't know. It's going to be different for everybody. I can tell you that right now. It's going to be different for everybody, for what you do, for how you do it. We are only reading the Bible, and we are trying to figure it out for what it says, for what he wants us to hear. That does not mean this is what he wants us to do. It's what he wants us to hear. We're trying to get understanding and wisdom. That's all we're doing. So don't listen to old Nicodemus, whose last name is Cain, which turns a lot of people off, which is fine by me. When God tells me to change my name, I'll change my name. But don't listen to old Nicodemus, because he's just trying to figure it out just like everybody else. I am not a preacher. I am not a pastor. This is not my ministry. I am just a guy sitting here trying to figure this out. Maybe it is ministry. I don't even know. I'm not going to call it that. You know, there's so many people. I hear guys online that this is my ministry. This is what I do. This is, this is what I'm called to do. This is what I'm meant to do. And, because it's my ministry, if you feel like you need to donate to my ministry, I'm like, what? I think a lot of people call it their ministry just to get people to donate. I seriously do. There's a lot of good people out there that will say that they have a ministry and they're doing it and they don't ask for donations, and it's cool stuff. But then there's the guys out there that will call it a ministry. They'll say, this is our ministry, this is what our purpose is, this is what our goal is. Please donate. And you get that sense of but as far as I understand, God will provide, not your Patreons. If God through your Patreons will provide, then hey, that's going to be between you and him. That's fine, but I'm not going to come on here begging for money. I'm really not. I'm going to tell you my sorrows, and I'm going to ask you to pray for us. Pray that God will help provide for us, but that's up to me. That's my life. That's taking responsibility for my own actions, my own problems. Anyways, before I get my foot any deeper into my mouth, God bless everyone. You take care of yourselves. I shall talk to y'all later. I don't want to say have a good weekend, because I hate when people say it to me, but whatever you do, praise the Father. Praise the Father for letting us have another weekend. I'm definitely going to be praising him for letting me have a weekend with my granddaughter. Because, again, every day I get to be with her is awesome. Absolutely awesome. So, till then, God bless, take care of yourselves, and I shall see you all later.